SAFM values your views. Be an active citizen.
So, on the 6th of June, it's World Anti-Counterfeiting Day. And I heard this really interesting story about money that got into the system that was completely counterfeited, and yet it was not even publicly available at the time. So one does wonder who has the power to counterfeit money, for example, who pirates goods, how it reaches us, and in fact, what your IP is. So when we look at the story of Zara with Laduma's socks, how do you feel and whose rights are they? Well, on the line, we've got Paul Ramara, who's a partner at Spoor & Fisher. Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, and morning to your listeners.
Paul, what will be discussed on World Anti-Counterfeiting Day?
So the World Anti-Counterfeiting Day is a special day set out specifically to sensitize consumers about the effects of counterfeiting. So really it's just an awareness campaign for people to be aware of the dangers of counterfeit.
So when we talk about counterfeiting, what are we talking about? Is it specifically money, or is it anything that is an original product that is then made as into a Hong Kong fake?
So simply put, we're talking about Hong Kong's knockoffs.
Yeah.
This is essentially where someone, perhaps sitting in China, produces a fake product. And to that product, he attaches a well-known trademark.
Okay.
And that is essentially counterfeiting.
So, in fact, when we talk about the Laduma Makosa socks, which, of course, which was so beautifully done and then very quickly and rapidly whipped up by the Zara label, that, in fact, is not a counterfeit, but that is a theft of IP.
Yeah, so with that particular story, and I have not followed it up quite closely, but I think what has happened in that particular matter is that the design has been stolen or copied by Zara. And we're talking more copyright infringement in that particular matter.
So how much is lost to people around counterfeiting? And do we see South African products ever being counterfeited?
Look, there has been a lot of studies that have been conducted to see the impact of counterfeiting. A few years ago, it was reported that counterfeiting actually accounts to between 5 to 7% of the world trade. So that is huge.
Yeah.
And it's growing, obviously, with the advent of internet and social media. Counterfeiters have found a market to sell counterfeit goods.
So I have to say, maybe I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but if it's 5 to 7% of the world trade, is there not a positive on that in that it's creating, I suppose, a secondary or parallel economy?
The problem that we have with this counterfeit goods is that the money that is made from counterfeiting is not channeled towards good causes. There has already been studies conducted by Interpol, which has revealed, amongst others, that some of the money that is made from counterfeiting is used to fund the terrorist activities.
Okay.
It also has a direct impact on employment, as you can imagine. Brand holders or companies that have legitimately spent a lot of money creating their own product will not be in a position to compete with a counterfeiter, because the counterfeiter, what they usually do is basically to jump on the bandwagon of a successful brand and make money off it.
So, of course, one of the things that is part of that whole process is indeed piracy. And I remember many years ago, I saw a CD that someone had bought in the East, in Asia. And it was the piracy of Lucky Dube, of a Lucky Dube CD. But on the cover, it was Lucky Dube Victim CD. There was this white guy in like a bunny jacket. And and then they had the kind of words "Lucky Dube victims," but they'd like transposed it back to front, but it was still his CD. I mean, in itself, that's almost like a collector's item. It's so bizarre. But it's a huge issue in South Africa, isn't it?
It is. It not only in South Africa, in the whole of Africa and the world. If you're talking about artists, I mean, these artists spend a lot of time, obviously, writing these lyrics or coming up with new ideas to compose their songs. And after they have invested such amount of time, they then have competition from people that have contributed zilch to the idea. And it's no wonder they're no longer hitting the sales that they used to hit before.
It is a challenge, of course, given what we know about social media, the use of the internet. Suddenly, with technology, the issue of IP pirating and I'm going to put this in inverted commas because some people just think it's common ground now, public commons, that one could just take material off the net. What is your take on that as a lawyer who's involved in issues of IP?
Yeah, so when you look at social media, it has created a huge platform. Look, it's an opportunity for brand holders to look at different ways of selling their products. But equally, it has created a massive opportunity for counterfeiters to sell counterfeit goods and not be detected. I view social media as sort of a lawless platform. Where you can actually do anything you want using hidden identity.
Yeah, okay. But obviously a lot of young people are listening to right now and they're going, nah, I don't agree with this guy at all. How would you sell that as a different conversation?
Well, what we have found is that most counterfeit goods are also now being sold on social platform.
Yeah.
If you look at Facebook, Instagram, this is the platforms that are used by counterfeiters to sell their goods. Of course, you also have online marketplaces like Alibaba and Amazon, which are used heavily by counterfeiters to sell products. So you could easily fall victim because what these counterfeiters do is they will use the photograph that they get from a genuine brand holder's website. And of course, when you see the products, they look genuine. And in fact, because they're using the correct photographs from brand holders, the goods, they look genuine. But when they are eventually supplied to you, you only receive fake stuff.
Okay, so if one has one's own personal work challenged, for example, and or as an artist or a creative, your IP is stolen or someone produces counterfeit product or it's hijacked, what is the first thing that company or person should do?
Well, the first thing, let's assume for a moment that you have a shop, perhaps in Fontaine or Pretoria, that is offering for sale counterfeit goods. The first thing is, of course, to consult with a relevant IP attorneys. You can then file through the attorneys, file a complaint with the police. In this particular case, we've got a specialized police unit called the Commercial Crime Unit. They will then, on receipt of your complaint affidavit, apply for what we call a search and seizure warrant. Once it is granted, a search and seizure operation will be conducted. A search and seizure operation is basically a raid against that particular shop, and counterfeit goods will be removed, and criminal charges will be laid against the suspect or the shop owner.
Fantastic. That's Paul Ramara. He's a partner at Spoor and Fisher. June the 6th is marked as World Anti-Counterfeiting Day.